studio at first.
What a background you have.
Yeah, so this is my sort of home office, but I also do sometimes recording in here straight into the computer. So this is as much a sort of musical thing. The studio isn't really here, but yeah, this is the music room and the study.
Yeah, it is. It's just it's just it's not any longer a hobby. It's really serious what you're doing.
Yeah, pretty. I guess so. I guess that's how it went. But to a degree, when you're in bands and you play music that is not pop music, it's not like particularly the heavy metal stuff.
Uh,
Um, it's as much of a hobby. It's a bit like the Highland games, Unless you're at the top tier, you're not paying, you're not covering your costs. You're doing
no,
it because you do it because you love it and you go and play live. But yeah, we've released an album last year. We're just releasing a single. We put it out on Bandcamp. But the record company that we're with is based in Italy,
yeah,
Old
yeah,
Death Records, and they're doing the full release in March. And then we've got another couple of releases already planned for later in the year. So
yeah.
yeah, I guess it's pretty serious.
So you had already an album?
Yeah. We released an album ourselves at the sort of February, March last year.
Yeah. So it's pretty serious.
Well, I guess I think it's like anything. Once you do it, it's like when people will often say to me, "Oh, you're an athlete, right?" I'm like, I don't really feel like an athlete. I'm just a guy, and I like doing Highland games, and I
Yeah.
train 3 or 4 times a week, and I go to a field and I throw things. Yeah, I guess that does make me an athlete, but I don't think of myself that way. I don't think of myself as a musician most of the time. I play guitar, I
Yeah.
write songs, I sing them.
You write your own songs?
Oh yeah. I write most of the lyrics for our stuff, and I
Yeah.
write a fair amount of the music.
Yeah.
Um, and because when the band first started, so it's almost exactly 4 years ago that
Mm.
that I started the band
Yeah.
with another guy, and we were hoping that a guy was going to come along and he was being the singer, but for various reasons, this guy never turned up. So like, well, okay, who's going to sing? I'm like, I'll sing,
Yeah.
and it just stuck.
You did you follow some lessons for singing, or is it just let's
Yeah,
go?
no, I had a vocal coach, so my daughter had seen a vocal coach because
Yeah.
she decided to do singing at one point. And I actually saw the same young woman to get some coaching, and then later on, when the band had started going,
Yeah.
I actually saw another guy who was a vocalist he'd been in a band. They've toured Europe and stuff like that.
Hmm.
Um, so I was like, the other vocal coach, she wasn't heavy metal at all. She's like, you're the only person I have ever taught who turns up, sings metal songs, and who actually plays the guitar at the same time. And I always figured, well, if you're going to be doing it, that's how you're going to play. You're going to be playing guitar and you're going to sing. You
Yeah.
might as well learn to do them both at the same time. That is the skill.
That's
Um,
two things in one.
yeah, which can be tricky sometimes. Which you would think, okay, well, you write the songs yourself, but I
Yeah.
write songs that I can't play when I first write the song and I write a riff. I don't know how I'm going to sing it and play it at the same time, and then I have to learn that song. So but if you don't push yourself to do anything, you don't get any better. It's a bit like with the games. You always strive to throw further or, get better at technique. I
Yeah.
fail most of the time at doing that, but I think I go all right with the music.
Well, the fun for me is, am I talking to an athlete and a rock star from Australia?
Oh, well, there's no stardom so far. I mean, it's this whole, I guess, social media. Social media is a big thing.
Yeah.
I first used social media really to keep in touch with family, and then it was to be involved in strongman,
Yeah.
and then strongman Highland Games. So I still have it there, so I can keep in touch with people all around the world that I've met,
Yeah.
competed with,
Uh,
but not falling into the I'm I'm I market myself as myself. My social media is a front for me as a product.
yeah.
No,
No.
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 The
No.
band has a page. The gigs that I organise for other bands,
Uh,
that's got its entity. I'm just me in the middle of it.
you do what is needed and nothing else
Yeah,
more. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
I have that too with social media. I don't want to put everything on it. Sometimes I put something on it, and later I think, okay, I take it off. It's
I
only
think
the funny and necessary things, and
yeah, I probably share memes or silly stuff on my personal page
yeah,
more than anything personal anymore. I
oh,
just don't. That's not what I use it for. Use the messenger to keep in touch with people and
yeah,
know what people are doing, but I don't need to put any of my personal life on there because I think that for me, I don't want to do that.
no, oh. But you're living for a long time in Australia, but you're born in Leicester. Am I right?
Yeah,
Or
Leicester, Leicester.
Leicester?
Yes,
Okay,
it is one of those funny place names in England, but yes, Leicester. Lived in Leicester for the first 9 or 10 years, and then
yeah,
moved up a bit further northeast and lived just outside a town called Grimsby, which is as it sounds,
yeah.
and then went to medical school in Dundee in Scotland.
What brought you to Australia then?
There was a couple of things. There wasn't an opportunity. I was working in emergency medicine at the time,
Yeah,
and the opportunities to go the next sort of level up locally where I was living, there weren't really any. I would have had to be commuting, and I saw this advert for a hospital out here
yeah,
just outside of Sydney, and I said to my late wife at the time, let's go for it. So we came out here with an intention to definitely stay for a year, maybe
yeah,
2 years,
yeah.
and just stayed.
Okay, yeah. But you never had been before in Australia, so
No,
you
no, never had
okay,
never been to Australia. I hadn't been. I'd been overseas a couple of times, but never as far away. It was mainly Europe, and I went on my honeymoon to the Dominican Republic.
yeah,
But that was the furthest away I'd been. So, but to Australia, it looked like it presented opportunities. The weather's
yeah,
generally a lot nicer.
yeah.
I say generally because recently we've had like thunderstorms nearly every day for 2 weeks,
It's not.
torrential rain.
It's now summer.
Yes, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
The other end of the seasons to you there in Europe.
yeah. And how did you get involved to the Highland Games then? Did you have seen it already in England or?
Well, ironically, I used to my so when I lived in Dundee,
Yeah,
my parents then moved. My dad's half Scottish, and they moved from where they were in England at the time. They moved up to Aberdeenshire.
yeah.
And on the way to drive to them, the ways I would mostly drive, I would either drive past the Inverstone,
Hmm.
or the other way round, I would just turn off before Potarch. So I would get so close to the Dinnies, but then I'd deviate north. Never went to a Highland Games. I knew I was aware of strongman, but I didn't have
Yeah.
any involvement in it, even when I started training.
Oh,
Um, and it was coming out to Australia, and we were living in flats and things like that, and
yeah.
trying to figure out, okay, how can I train at home? So got into sort of like the strong lifts, thick bar lifting, because you could just go and buy a thick bar and it costs you like $50 compared to buying weights
Yeah.
for in between going to the gym. Um, and it was Susie, my late wife, who found the Slater's stone molds.
Hmm.
She bought one of them, and then I met with a group led by David Huxley. Now, David Huxley had been to Scotland in the 80s and then ran a strongman series in Australia here that
Yeah.
was sponsored by the cereal company Weet-Bix.
Yeah.
And I met them, and then that's basically where I started doing competitive stuff. So 2008 was the year I got invited to be a tartan warrior by David Huxley. Craig Reed, who you probably have met because he's
Yeah.
competed
Yeah.
at some of the Masters games.
Yeah.
Craig Reed started running a games up near him in Newcastle, just an hour or two north of Sydney.
Yeah.
And that's where it all started. So I started doing Strongman and Highland Games both in 2008. And in Christmas 2008, I went back home for the first time since we'd moved out here.
Yeah.
And that was when, of course, it was winter. So you would go and lift. I lifted the dinnies. I did use straps. Yep, I used straps that time because it was like -4 degrees. And once you held onto the rings, you couldn't even feel your hands anymore. So,
Oh.
but the hotel was closed. I did the Inverstone lift in Mrs. Reed's garden, and the hotel over the road was closed. And I did the Mings' Stone that holiday as well. So I did a bit of the traditional stone lifts when I was back in Scotland when we had the chance.
Yeah.
But yeah, most of the time I just continued to do it out here.
Okay, that's cool. And how big is Highland Games in Australia?
No, not big, not big. So there's been, I mean, you'll know, we've had world champions, Matt Sanford, who I am honoured to say I've known, and I've talked to Matt. I even have a couple of Matt's old hammerheads that I
Okay.
use now for training.
Hmm.
And I met Matt again this last few weeks because I've been to Victoria and competed in Victoria in Australia twice in the last couple of months. And I'd never done a Victorian Highland Games before. So those are run by Matt and his wife, Fran. Fran, of course, went over to the last Worlds and set like 6 world records or something like that in the 50+ age category. So there's always been guys like Matt or Joe Quigley who have gone out and done really well internationally. Aaron Neighbour as well.
Yeah.
But within Australia at any one time, maybe 20 people taking it relatively seriously and doing it regularly.
Yeah.
Maybe 30 or 40 that I could think of at the moment who've probably done a Highland Games with any degree of seriousness about doing it rather than they just rocked up and put a kilt on. So it's not particularly big over here. I am going to New Zealand in a couple of weeks to compete at Pyroa, just 90 minutes south of Auckland. And I'll be, although I don't compete against Pat Hellier anymore, but Pat, again, from this end of the world, he was up there. He was competing with the world's best. I don't want to age Pat too much, but I think it was probably in the late 90s, maybe early noughties now. It's a while ago.
How many competitions you have in Australia then?
It has just gone up. So for some time in New South Wales, when I first started doing it in 2008, the first one of that year in 2008 was the East Coast Games, which was up around Newcastle or Port Stephens. Then in November there'd be Castle Hill, which, and it had been there for a long time. Some of the international guys had come over and done basically that competition. But then you would go through till, in terms of throwing, in New South Wales, nothing, but in Victoria, Maryborough, and that's what I competed at this year on January the 1st. has
Yeah.
been going for 162 years. They've only had a couple of cancellations, most recently with COVID, but previous cancellations were only due to the world wars. So that has ran one of the longest running, if not the longest
Yeah.
running games in the world, up there, I think, with Pleasanton and Antigonish.
Yeah.
Um, and then they had another couple down in Victoria, and then that was it. So maybe only half a dozen when I started doing it.
Yeah. Okay.
Um, there's now a couple in Western Australia, but I'm not sure when they are. And there's a few more now um, in various places. There's been a couple of groups, and it got a bit complicated for a while about who was doing what and where the competitions were and who could do them. And
Yeah.
now it tends to be a bit more okay. Well, there's these competitions. If you want to throw in them, and that's fine. But not an awful lot. Maybe about 10.
Yeah.
And that's spread the whole way around Australia. And
Yeah.
Australia is fairly large, as you
That
know.
would. Yeah. That would I say. Then you have to also travel a lot of miles, and you can
Yeah,
do
so
everything with a car. So
well, that's exactly it. I mean, sometimes I guess the couple of games I just did in Victoria, sort of mid-December, and then January. It's about 900 kilometers to the games.
okay.
You're talking 1,800 kilometers round trip to go and do a games.
Yeah.
So, I mean, guys do that in Europe, maybe, if you really, really want to. And I
Yeah.
know
Uh,
guys in the US, if you're doing interstate, you might do, but it's a fairly decent, fairly decent trip to go and throw some things.
uh, did you ever thought about coming over to Europe and doing in a in a in a summer, for example, a couple of Highland games, Scotland or
Oh,
Netherlands, Germany, whatever?
the thoughts are there, but I don't consider myself really particularly good. And I
Uh,
guess at various times it's like, okay, at what point do you do it, and where does it sit with everything else?
uh,
Um, Me and my now partner Bernie, we've been to Europe the last couple of years, and of course we did the Swiss Worlds.
yeah.
Was
How
that
many
last year?
worlds you did?
So I have done Iceland, I did Stuttgart, I did Arizona, and I did Switzerland. And I was
Yeah.
booked in to do Ireland, but we all know what happened. The year of Ireland was the year
Yeah.
of COVID.
Yeah.
So I have the patch on the kilt for Ireland, even though it ended up not happening.
You've done it.
Yeah, yeah, I did it somehow.
Yeah.
Mentally, I did quite well. I think I did podium in that one.
Okay. Who knows?
Who,
But
but who can say I didn't?
uh,
Everything just sat right for that one.
uh, uh, and did you have time for going to a gym?
I have not trained in a commercial gym for a long time. I basically have it. It's all set up in my garage.
Yeah.
So I've still got Atlas stones in the garage, even though I haven't really done strongman for ages. But yeah, I train in the garage, and I probably train 3 days a week at least. And then if there's games coming up, I'll try and throw at least a couple of times a week, and
Yeah.
maybe train once or twice. But it depends. And I mean, it's not a it's not going to be something that's just me. When you're into the masters category, the thing that affects you most, I reckon, for a lot of us, is not so much how well you're training and stuff like that. It's
Oh.
how your injuries are that you've accumulated over all the years of doing this, and where your injuries are at any given time. So I've got torn menisci in both knees, completely torn labrums in both shoulders,
Yeah.
which I probably have to think the Dinny stones for. Um, Not that I noticed it at the time. Um, so
You can be injured because you have to play your guitar.
One of the things I often used to say, I can justify doing the band stuff more because it hurts less.
Yeah.
It hurts less to play guitar, but then I do gigs once a month, which most of the time I organise, and my band doesn't play.
Mm.
Um, but I have organised these gigs at a place that's not very far away from me,
Yeah.
and carrying this gear up the stairs. Because unfortunately the venue where we play is actually up a staircase and there isn't a lift.
Oh.
Some of the time, particularly after I got back from Switzerland, and we'd done a bit of touring around and stuff like that after the games, and then I got back and my knees were just terrible. But I was once a month carrying stuff up and down the stairs one night a month, and that was enough.
Oh,
Um,
that is some kind of workout.
well, I can justify that, but then I more recently was like, no, these things are not that heavy. Like
Oh,
maybe the speaker cabinet here,
yeah.
maybe 30 kilos. None
You're a
of us.
you're a master, so don't go too heavy.
Oh, I'm not picking it up in one hand and throwing it for height, right? I'm just carrying it with two hands up a flight of stairs. So I was like, stop being lazy. It's
Yeah.
not that heavy. It's not really a workout just because you're carrying some stuff up the stairs. So stop skipping Friday's training day just because you're doing that on Saturday.
Uh,
But we see how we go.
what do you like the most of the Highland Games? Which event?
I think more recently it's probably the weights for distance events.
Uh,
Um, I a lot of the games over here, fortunately, the ones in Victoria do have a masters division, but a lot of the ones we've been doing in New South Wales, you don't have the opportunity. You're still throwing the 56.
yeah.
So the 56 is just a destroyer of the body. But yeah, I started quite getting into the both the 28 and the 42. I used to quite like hammer, but as I said, because of the shoulders, I've just really struggled to get up to any consistent, decent distances again. And I guess, I mean, you could love an event that you're bad at, but most often you despise the event because you're bad at it, like sheaf.
Oh, you
I,
don't like it.
I despise sheaf.
Oh, okay.
And it's not necessarily true. I know that sometimes it gets trotted out that it's not really a Highland Games event, but I know they compete and they do sheaf at a couple of the games in Scotland,
Yeah.
even though from what I hear it's basically a bunch of twigs or whatever.
Oh,
But yeah, no, I'm not a fan of sheaf because I'm bad at it. So that doesn't justify not training it. I don't train at it because it hurts because of
yeah.
the shoulders. But I do what I can do because I love doing it. Even if it's events that I don't like, I found that it just makes a big difference to me mentally to be going. So I will train more if I know I've got games and I've got throwing. Though
Uh,
I can't not train, even if I know I've not got games. Not training is not an option.
uh, I saw that you started this season 25 with a second place.
Yeah, though transparency in the Masters division, there was only three of us, so I was pretty much guaranteed a podium finish.
Well,
Um,
don't say there were three. You have to say, oh man, I was second from 12.
I well, but I'm transparent about these
Yeah.
sorts of things. So essentially, it comes down to as well, doesn't it? That although there are other guys on the field, and yeah, overall you're competing against them,
Yeah.
you know how far you're throwing things. So I was like a nearly 59-foot lightweight for distance. So I was very pleased with that because in training I've barely been getting after 55. So to get up around the 60-foot mark again, for me,
Yeah.
I took that as that's good. I'm quite pleased with that. I'm happy.
Yeah.
My stone put traditionally sucks. I've got awful technique and I had to change it around because again the shoulders just won't let me push through and I can't get it up here. And I was like, this is the way I was coached how to do it, get it up here and stuff like that. I can't do it, it's too sore.
Oh,
So only started positioning things differently and working on that. And again, the stone put was surprisingly much further than I've been doing in training. So to me, if I'm doing that
Yeah,
and you go onto the field and you're going, oh, that was better. That was a good throw for me. That
yeah.
was better than I've been doing in training.
It
I'll
keeps
take
you.
that. I'll
It
take that fine.
it keeps you also motivated to continue.
Yeah,
If you
yeah. I
throw
mean,
it,
look,
if you're throwing worse and worse, then maybe you start thinking, okay,
yeah, I'll play more music now.
yeah. And your work, uh,
Yes.
you're working in a mental health
So
hospital.
So no, no, I'm a GP or a family physician. I don't know what the terms would be in the Netherlands, but yeah, family physician, general practitioner. So I do all sorts of stuff. So pretty much if you're just in the community and your first port of call to see a doctor, um, before you see a specialist,
Yeah,
you go and see your general practitioner. So, coughs and colds and all that. I have a couple of areas of interest, and lots of people will try and see me because they read the profile or whatever, and they're like, "Oh, you're a sports doctor, or you do this, you do that." And I try and do the bits that I'm interested.
yeah,
I obviously do a little bit more and I can give people the advantage of my insights into, particularly when guys, it's often guys getting older, they can't do what they once did and stuff like that, and talk to them, about, how you modify your training, how you keep your head right, how training, even when you're not as strong as you once were, is still worthwhile. That sort of perspective. I mean, is it just happens because since COVID, mental health is just so much more of a burden to everybody.
yeah.
Tend to be doing a lot of that as well. Um, but yeah, so I do a little bit of everything.
Okay, okay, interesting. So, and when you play, in your band, that's a kind of keep your head clear. Is it
Oh,
some or doing Highland games?
all of it really. I mean, train for however long in the gym, whether it be light,
Yeah,
whether it be a heavier one,
yeah,
going out and throwing. Yeah, look, when the weather allows, because it's been just absolutely crazy here the last couple of weeks.
yeah.
So I don't know whether my training field is possibly underwater right now.
Uh,
Um,
but
but
I mean about your work. It's uh, you have a lot of things on your mind, and then
oh,
doing something different, sport or music to
yeah, I guess so. So, I mean, I've been used to doing that. I mean, I've been a doctor now for more than half my life.
yeah,
So, I graduated when I was 23, was a junior doctor in the hospitals. I'm 50 in 2 months. So, it's something that I think some people you just naturally can compartmentalize and stuff like that. It's absolutely true. I
yeah,
played guitar since I was like 13, and I
yeah,
started lifting weights when I was about 13, 14.
yeah,
So, yeah, those were very early on put into place to be like, okay, well, yeah, I could be thinking about this, but actually I'm going to be deadlifting later on.
yeah,
Or, oh, okay, I got band rehearsal on Friday. Now, I probably do think about next band rehearsal. As soon as I finish one band rehearsal, I'm probably thinking about the next.
yeah,
We're in the process of writing more songs. We've just had a new bass player, so that's changed things for the better,
yeah,
fortunately. So, yeah, there's always something to focus on. But then when I'm in practice and you're in front of me and you're my patient, yeah, my focus is on
yeah.
you.
But I think everyone needs to have something to reload.
Oh, absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely. I don't, and I think a lot of us that are now doing masters athletics in whatever way,
Yeah.
have probably always known that and then kept it there. And then for whatever reason, life gets in the way and you don't do it for a while. But you realize that was one of your things and it
Yeah.
was really important. And it's not about where you are on the podium, and it's not to a necessary extent about always throwing better than you did, but it's about being there and doing it.
Yeah.
And, I love Masters. I would love to be there this year, whether that works out. But I think I might be seeing a few people. If the Melbourne IXGF goes ahead, it would be
Yeah.
great to see people come to where I don't have to spend 24 hours on a plane.
uh, it's always good to put some energy in something else.
And I think that's why, music has been a bigger part for me because, like I said, there's only so much you can train.
Yeah.
You've got to recover from your training. You've got to,
Yeah.
work around that.
Yeah.
And I'm not one to sit and watch TV shows and stuff like that.
No.
So,
Yeah.
guitars and the music and stuff like that. But I,
You're only listening to metal.
uh, I often I don't actually listen to a huge amount of other people's music at the moment
Mm.
because I find that if I were to do that, I'd probably start getting more influenced by, all right, I'm listening to a lot of this. And then all of a sudden I find, oh, that riff sounds a lot like, whoever Amon Amarth all of a sudden.
Yeah.
So I listen to various stuff. It's not always metal. Like, for example, I've recently, in the last day or so, we're planning to write a song about the Celtic queen of the Iceni, Boudica, or Boadicea, or Buddock, depending on what area of the UK you're from.
Yeah.
So the plan is to have some Celtic themes in that. So listening to more Celtic music to get to kind of ingrain, okay, what sort of scales, what sort of progressions, how do I make the stuff that we're writing meld the metal sort of stuff and the heavy guitars in with something more Celtic. So
Yeah.
there's an authenticity about the subject matter. So it just depends. I might go through a period where I listen to soundtracks. So I was listening to a lot of the movie themes from Arnold movies not very long ago.
Okay.
Um, only his good ones though. Only the action movies, not Kindergarten Cop. No. So yeah, it varies, but yeah, look, I like metal. I listen to metal.
Yeah. Yeah. Music, if the music touch your soul, then it's your kind of music.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I was having a chat. Had a catch up with some mates of mine who are mates. One of them's my neighbour,
Yeah.
but his friend, he's known since high school. But they reconnected because they were both doing the music. Um, and I've come to the realization that listening to the stuff that people tell you you're supposed to listen to, you've got
No,
to listen to these people, they're great, and stuff like that.
that doesn't work.
I don't want to listen to stuff to try and figure out why I might appreciate it. I can appreciate all of it.
Yeah.
I can appreciate all sorts of music, mostly not modern chart music. I don't mostly appreciate that, but
Yeah.
I can get that somebody quite smart is doing it to tap into what people popularly want to hear and what the media want put out. But
Yeah.
mostly, I think it's crap. So I'll listen to stuff that I like.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, some music is how do you say that?
Crap.
When oh, there's a lot of crap, but when I hear, for example, Sweet and Mud on the radio, I think you know them.
Oh yeah, like a
Then I then
true
I'm then
story.
I'm thinking, it's not my favorite music, but I like to listening to it because it brings
Uh-huh.
you back to the 70s, and I'm growing up with Depeche Mode, Gary Newman, New Order, and those
Mm.
bands. That's what I like.
Yeah, look, I am not a fan of most 80s music, which which is funny because my son, who just turned 18,
Yeah.
um, I'm currently teaching him to drive. So I have to be in the car, and I would say, okay, you get the choice of music if you're driving because you don't want to be distracted. And he likes a lot of 80s music. He's
Yeah,
a good musician. He plays
yeah,
bass.
yeah.
He can play guitar. He's a drummer, and he's been doing drums for years. But he likes to listen to 80s stuff, and there's only so much Spandau Ballet and
Oh
Level
no.
42
Oh,
that I can take.
no.
But
Oh,
when you mention the Suite, that was one of the first bands that sort of turned me on to the heavier guitar-driven stuff
yeah.
because Ballroom Blitz was on a compilation
Oh yeah.
vinyl
Yeah.
that my parents had.
Yeah.
And I found that, and I would like, okay, skip all the rest of it. I'm not interested in the rest of that. Yeah, Ballroom Blitz,
Yeah.
and they had the soundtrack to the film Easy Rider with Steppenwolf, Born to Be Wild.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Those are great numbers.
those
And it's real music.
those still stand up. Those
Yeah.
still stand up.
Yeah.
So I don't listen to a lot of that older stuff, but every so often I'll go a bit sweet and 70s and stuff like that. I don't go as far as T Rex, by the way. I cannot stand T Rex. But
Oh.
yeah, in fact, the Sweet toured Australia at the end of last year.
Yeah. Okay.
Crazy. That's a long way for old dudes to go. But then I'm like, hang on a second. I'm an older dude and I'm going to go all the way around the world and throw some things around in a muddy field, probably. So.
You know, that's for 2 years ago, I went to a festival because the Ramones were played there, but
Mm,
uh, the original drummer, he's still alive. You know,
mm,
the other members are not original,
mm.
but that's really something else than the electro bands. What I said, but I even like that music. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, and go on. Next number
Yes.
1, 2, 3, 4, and let's go. You know,
Yes.
hurry up.
Literally.
Cool.
Those are the lyrics as well for half the Ramones songs, are they not?
Yeah, yeah. I heard somewhere that a- all the bands that using when they play a new number in a concert, they always say 1, 2, 3, 4. That's what they got from the Ramones.
It's yeah, look, there's when we first started this.
I can easily talk an hour about music than the Highland Games.
But we will stick to your time slot, whatever. But yeah, look, the when we first started doing this band, we actually rehearsed upstairs in my house, which has now got the PA, and it's got an equal number of guitar amps and speaker cabs and a drum kit. But my old bandmate, he he was typified that sort of thing. So he felt that he had to count in anything that we were about to play with 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah,
But he wasn't much of an actual musician. Great guitarist, but he would count in,
yeah,
but not at the tempo that he was then going to play the song in. And the point of your count is you're
yeah,
establishing the tempo for what you play. So go
yeah. Right.
1, 2, 3, 4. No, then you have to go 1, 2, 3, 4. Do. You're not just saying it for the sake of saying 1, 2, 3, 4. So I
Oh,
thought that just reminded me. I hadn't thought of that. I've been talking a little bit with people recently about because it's almost the 4-year anniversary of Decimater
yeah.
coming into existence. So
Where did the
yeah,
name came from?
the name.
Yeah, from
So that was actually a name that
the
Mike.
the brother from Terminator.
Say again. I might have lost train of thought and been thinking about something else.
I said, where's the name Decimater coming from? It's the brother from
Yeah.
Terminator.
So it was the guy I co-founded the band with, Mike, and he'd been thinking of using the band name Decimater. Now, we did later find out that there are at least two other Decimators who've been in the world of metal. One was a UK band, but have been inactive since the 90s.
Yeah.
One is a death metal band from Brazil.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah.
I believe there's another one, but they haven't recorded anything, and I think they might actually be in New Zealand. But he just thought it was a cool name. But I am, into what is the origin of this title, because we've kind of called our band name Decimater. What does it mean? Because there are other people out there like me who'll go, "Oh, do you Decimater? This means this." So to him and for the band, it was just, "Oh, that sounds like a cool name. It's metal, right? Let's have that."
Hmm.
Um, and then I did a bit of research about the decimation was the punishment that they would use in the Roman legions.
Oh yeah.
So if you deserted,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
your in your century, they would execute 10 of you. So a tenth of you would be
Yeah.
punished for
Yeah.
the one deserter.
Yeah.
So obviously you didn't let your mates desert because you didn't want a 1 in 10 chance of getting punished.
Yeah.
So that's why we've actually written a song. Well, I write the song, I write all the lyrics. So there's actually a verse in one of our songs that is out on YouTube. It's a lyric video called Legions.
Yeah.
And one of the verses deals with that Roman punishment. But I immediately also knew I used to be back in the day, like 35 years ago. Warhammer, Dungeons and Dragons, and Warhammer 40,000 was just coming out then.
Yeah.
Now, Warhammer 40,000 is 35 years old, just blows my mind. Because I remember before it existed, and a world before Warhammer 40,000. But in this grim and dark future, you've got the dreadnought kind of machines.
Hmm.
And when I did a quick Google search, I'm like, oh, there's one called the Decimator. It was a particularly nasty chaos like dreadnought. I'm like, you know what? The song Decimator is actually more about a big killing machine, Warhammer 40,000 dreadnought kind of thing. So I've sort of put both of the potential meanings are into songs that we've done.
Yeah.
Um,
Is
but
is is metal music always related to death?
Oh, no, not at all. I mean, most of our, well, maybe not most. So if I think about the songs on our albums, there's one about being really angry at everybody
Yeah.
and just feeling like killing them, but you don't.
No.
Um, there's one about actually, I guess, the the centuries of cancel culture where certain cultures have always wanted to eradicate the teachings of other cultures, whether it be religious or whether it be whatever.
Yeah.
Um, and I had in mind particularly the burning of the library at Alexandria. So we've got one called "Burn the Truth." There's one about being the the strong one when somebody's struggling potentially with mental health stuff
Yeah.
and you're there strong, called The Rock. So even within the stuff that I've written, and that is pretty representative across metal music as a whole, a lot of it is not about that sort of stuff. You've got certain subgenres, yeah, it's all about that, but that's like what their whole part of the extreme metal is, and you've got other bits where they never talk about it. I mean, most of Iron Maiden, for example, because that was one of my very early influences, a lot of it was historical stuff,
Oh.
or it's philosophical stuff, or it's based on books and films.
Hmm.
So a lot of that is the way I tend to write, books and films. I read a series of books about Genghis Khan, so I wrote a song called War for the Plains, which is one of our singles about
Yeah.
Genghis Khan.
Yeah.
So, I think there are certain things that you're more likely to write about or hear about in metal music. I do not write soppy romantic stuff, and I won't
No.
write cliched, oh yeah, rock and roll and all that. Nah, that's
But
cliche to me, and I can't do it.
some songs are okay. You just said Iron Maiden. The song "Run to the Hills."
Yes,
Uh, that's a good number.
of
That's what I
course it
like to
is.
listen to.
So
Yeah,
that sort of early Iron Maiden. Um, the first album that really influenced me from metal wise, rather than listening to the Sweet and Steppenwolf and stuff,
yeah,
was Iron Maiden's album Seventh Son of a Seventh Son.
yeah.
Um, so again, I've talked to our new bass player who's in the band now. He's about the same age. He's a couple of years older than me, so that makes a big difference because for quite a while I was the oldest by 25 years.
Oh,
Older than all the other guys in the band. They were all in their, they're still, the other two, the drummer and the guitarist, are still in their 20s. And me and Riley are both in our early 50s. So that changes the way you can relate. And you figure out, there's certain things, if you hear it at that certain time,
yeah,
it will stay with you and it'll be really important to you. And it kind of depends what else was going on around you, and then you come across this particular thing, and that will always be
hmm,
the best of those things. You can hear stuff after that and you'll be able to appreciate, oh, that's really good, but the best of those things happens, probably somewhere between 13, 16. The stuff that was going on then that was important to you will always be more important than the other stuff.
uh, well, I know there is in Sweden is a huge festival. All those names from the 80s, 90s are coming over to play there. So I once said, let's go there and see all those bands. Even I don't have that much with those music, but to see all those bands like Slayer and Iron Maiden and everything is coming to play there.
Well, dude, you're in Europe. I mean, during festival season, during the European summer, you've
Yeah,
got stuff like Wacken, Keep It True. They run for 2 or 3 days. You've got the some of the biggest bands. They just want to. They're going to play the European festival scene, and we're out here in Australia.
yeah,
And there's a couple of festivals and they struggle, and particularly the metal ones, they can't run it if it's only metal. They have to put a lot of other just kind of alternative fillers in there. So
yeah,
if you're more into the metal stuff, you're like, well, I'll pay for that ticket. Like Slipknot, for example.
yeah,
Slipknot do a festival, they come out, but unless you, and I'm not a big Slipknot fan, I like
no,
some of it, but it's like, unless there's other bands on that, but you've got your pick, and you don't have to go super far.
no,
I mean, most of them are in Germany, I think, right? And there's a couple in France, so you don't even have to go as far as Sweden.
uh,
Um, Actually, when I came over and did the Worlds in Switzerland, me and Bernie had been in Norway for the first 10 days of our 1 month that we had in Europe, and we spent 4 days at a festival in Norway,
hmm,
uh, Midgardsblot.
yeah,
So held in the Viking village, where they've rebuilt one of the Viking halls in Bore,
hmm,
and they have 4 days of metal,
yeah, yeah,
mostly Norwegian. Well, a lot of the original, you
uh,
know, true with a V instead of a U. A lot of the true metal, bands, and black metal, but all sorts of other stuff as well. And
yeah.
that was just awesome. But I'm like, some of that compared to the festivals that you have elsewhere in Europe, it was teeny. It was tiny, but it was awesome.
Yeah,
When it seems right. But we're not. It's like you mentioned before. There's a lot of songs about death. Look, there's a whole sort of subgenre of grindcore where it's
yeah,
all about.
yeah, yeah,
Um, some of it came out of the Midlands scene with Carcass,
yeah,
where it was all about that stuff, and then not even all death metal is about death and carnage and gore, but
yeah,
certainly some of it is. So you know, I like a bit of all of that. I can easily listen to some of the bands that have
Yeah.
all got the harsh vocals, and then be listening to something a lot cleaner. Um,
Uh,
it depends on your mood as well. You can be in the
yeah.
mood for this, but I can find there's metal for every mood. I don't need to go out of the genre.
I will be happy with a sampler and a keyboard.
Well, just here, but I never use it. This is the unused for other genres that just
Oh,
hasn't got used for Decimater.
well, maybe someday you will use it.
Maybe we could do some atmospheric stuff.
If you're gonna write a romantic song.
Well, I just said no. No romance. No
maybe
romantic song.
maybe when you're over 60.
Oh, maybe it's possible, but yeah, I'm not going to make any wry comments about romance and being over 60. But I just probably won't write a Decimater song. I'll have to do another band or another project for that sort of soppy stuff.
Did you ever thought to go in your kilt on stage?
Yeah, that would just seem a bit. It wouldn't be authentic to me. It's like when I used to do strongman, and I knew other guys that did strongman, and they would wear kilts for doing the strongman. I mean, we all know Mark Felix
Yeah.
sometimes wears a kilt. But it just never felt right to me to wear a kilt to do
Oh,
strongman competitions. If it
just
was like a Highlander and there was strongman events within the games,
oh,
sure, because you're already wearing it. But not no. And for going on stage, it just would seem kind of cheesy to me. But that's just me. I'm like, well, if I want to wear a kilt, I'll throw things, and if I want to play guitar, I'll wear cargo shorts.
yeah. Two worlds.
Yeah, yeah, and I was talking to somebody about this the other day. I would love to feel comfortable to write something metal about the Highland Games, or about at least strength, but as soon as I think about it, and people have done stuff before, and as soon as I listen to it, there's an element of cheesiness that I just can't get past. So I would feel like, as soon as I put pen to paper, or actually I mostly type them because
Yeah.
I'm much faster at typing than doing handwriting these days because of my job. It's all writing computer notes. So as soon as I put fingers to keyboard, I'd be like, this is too cliched and cheesy. I can't continue. I can't think of a way of not making it cheesy.
Oh,
So I think if I thought it could happen and I thought there was a way of doing it, I'd have probably already done it. Because other stuff, like writing this song about Boudica, yeah, that came to me. I hadn't thought about the lyrics for it, and then in the last 2 days, I'd pretty much written half the lyrics because it just seemed obvious. But there's just some things that just for me, I don't think it can be done. I mean, I don't know whether you're aware. Gerrit Badenhorst, the strongman who was on the world stage,
yeah.
90s. I think he was a photocopier salesman, but South African,
Yeah.
tremendous powerlifter. He did a song that was about strongman and released it.
Yeah.
And I cannot remember it now because, no offense to him, my mind has probably blanked it out because it wasn't great.
Hey, and going back to the Highland Games, uh, what is your best memory till so far?
Um,
The World Masters competitions?
Actually, one of the one that tends to come back to me a lot of the time is Stuttgart,
Okay, yeah.
um, which was around the time. I mean, you said before I've thought about going to Europe, and after Stuttgart was like, this is so good. Like people into it. There's a big crowd.
Yeah.
The way they'd organised that one, like Petra and Uli, it was just fantastically done.
Yeah.
With you had the music on stage and all that sort of stuff. It was just great. I have fond memories of that one, even though I basically flew in the Thursday afternoon and then flew out on the Monday. And it was 24 to 30 hours traveling there
It was
and
it
back
was worth
again.
it.
But it was great, and
Oh,
the vibe there was just great. So that is
yeah.
definitely one of the best ones.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I mean, and otherwise, I think every games has its own kind of thing. So there's things I really liked about lots of the other games. I remember at Arizona, everybody trying to turn one of the cables after the competition had finished.
Yeah, right.
We're all running around trying to turn one of the cables.
I've tried it on barefoot.
Yeah, no, was that a smart idea, Webber?
Uh, Not the best idea.
So there's different things. Every games has got something special about it. I mean, uh, Hafnarfjordur was great for. Oh, that's a reason to go to Iceland. I mean, I did
Uh,
the Husfell Stone. I did the Dritvik Stones when we were there as well.
okay,
Went
yeah.
to Magnus Gym. Well, Magnus wasn't there, but at least he was the referee for us throwing hammer. So, you know, the vibe wasn't the same as Stuttgart,
No,
but it was freaking cool
yeah,
because you've done all
absolutely.
these.
Yeah,
So it's every games, even the smaller games, they've got something about them that makes them cool. The ones I've just done in Victoria were great. The vibe at Maryborough to be involved in such a historic games, I'm like, why haven't I done this before? I'd rather be doing this on January the 1st
yeah.
because I don't want to particularly stay up and do the thing on New Year's Eve. I'm past that. But throwing on the first of the year, what better way to start the year?
And become a second.
Of course, of more than two people.
That's a good start.
That's it. That got 2025 off to a good start.
Any more competitions coming for you?
Yeah, so as I said, 2 weeks I'll go to Pyro in New Zealand.
Yeah.
Um, that's beginning of February. Towards the end of March, we've got the IHGF in Melbourne.
Hmm.
So that's definitely planned. April, I organise Bundanoon. So we're trying to get some of our best throwers from around Australia to come and do that, and that's part of one of the biggest Highland gatherings in the southern hemisphere, Bundanoon.
Yeah.
Um, so that would be April, May. I'll go back down to Victoria. So I've got like one a month for this year because I'm actually feeling like, although the shoulders are sore, the knees are sore, they seem to mostly cooperate when I ask them to. So throwing now feels better than it did, much better than it did a year ago. So I'm feeling like, yep, while I can and while it's doing things, get out there, and also I just love it.
Uh, well, just continue.
I will try.
Yeah. Is that a master's mindset? Is that a master's mindset? I will try.
Yeah, look,
Keep on
I think
going.
that's it. Just keep on
Yeah.
going. It's like
Uh,
you know, you're gonna be sore, you're gonna be injured, but you've
yeah.
figured out by now that you're probably gonna be sore when you're not doing it. In fact, I know that's true.
Yeah.
So I had a stroke at the end of 2021. And that put me out because of the complications and what the advice was and stuff like that. Okay, you shouldn't train heavy, you shouldn't do anything, you might need this heart surgery and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And that really threw a spanner into works for that year because anything that was super heavy, and that obviously includes throwing, like you're not supposed to hold your breath and brace, was one of the things that I had in mind. So it then took quite a while to come back from that.
Yeah.
But when not training, it was like everything's sore anyway. I'd rather be sore and strong than sore and weak, right? And
Uh,
that's not this sort of that which does not kill me makes me stronger mentality.
no.
it's true. It's life, and this doesn't go so well when not training regularly. So, both of those reasons, you'll be sore anyway. Keep going.
Having a good mindset, that's everything. And
Absolutely.
if you're really injured, I know some athletes who were injured, take a year off, and come back and throw well.
Well, I've torn both my biceps off.
Yeah,
I've torn that one 2012, that one 2016, and I always found a way to get back in and get training. That's why I have a safety squad bar and somebody else to load plates on and just be back in there. And I always say that to patients who consult with me about it.
yeah,
Train whatever you can when you can. Create the capacity to do more. And then I try and listen to myself say that as well.
yeah.
When you're feeling, it doesn't mean not take a day off, because sometimes you've got to remember, well, if I take a day off, I'll be recovered more. I'll probably have a better session, but not
Yeah.
always, because
No.
sometimes the day you don't feel like it, you go in, you're like, oh, I surprised myself there. I felt really tired, and now I've just done twice as much as I thought I would even gonna do.
Yeah,
So, please just keep trying.
yeah, absolutely. Well, Lance, this was an interesting interview with you. And
And thank you for the invitation. I don't feel I've seen who else you've interviewed, and Mike Dickens and Martin Schiller, and I'm like, yeah, they can throw things quite far. I'm just this guy from Australia, and mostly I play guitar more than I throw things. So
well, I
thank
would
you.
like to hear a story from a rock star athlete and throwing in the world masters. So, and he's from Australia. So it was a really honor to have you, and I hope to see
No,
you somewhere again.
we will work on it for this year. We'll see how the numbers go.
Yeah,
And maybe just by getting out of the same age category as anybody else from Australia,
yeah,
maybe that's the best way. Just get a bit older, just go into the next division, and then you'll be right.
yeah. Well, Lance, thank you very much, and have a
Thank
good
you,
evening.
Robert.
And my day is just starting, so
Well, you have a good day, and
thank you
thanks
very
again
much.
for the invite. And thank you to anybody that bothered listening. I hope there was many, and I hope you all go and find Decimater on YouTube and follow the Facebook and follow the social medias, because
Uh,
I'm going to give the band
ca-
a plug right at the end.
can I use your music for this video before it
I would
starts?
love you to, Wyver.
I will do.
I would love you to. And, if you can get it on Bandcamp,
Yeah,
but if you can't, just let me know, and I will share a track so that you can use it for the video. That'd be great.
perfect. Thank you very much, man.
Take care. Thanks again. Bye.
All the best.
Bye for now.
Yo.